I woke before sunrise to peel sweet potatoes and rub sage into the small turkey I bought on discount. The November air in Charleston felt thin and sharp, the kind that slips through window seals and makes your fingers ache. I turned the thermostat down to save on the bill and boiled water for tea, pretending the whistle sounded festive with hope. It had been a hard year. I stretched my janitor wages across rent, pills, and groceries by clipping coupons each week. Still, I wanted the day to feel generous. I set the table with my good plates, the chipped china Michael loved when he was little. The living room looked tidy, though the carpet was tired and the sofa springs sighed when I sat. I pressed the crease from a cloth napkin and told myself a story I have told for years, that love is shown in a warm room and a plate that says welcome. If I made things lovely, maybe the quieter parts of my life would hush for one afternoon. By noon, the turkey gave off a buttery perfume. I basted it and checked the pumpkin pie cooling on the sill. My coat still hung by the door, shiny at the elbows. I had worn it through 2 winters and promised myself this would be the last. I whispered that promise like a prayer while I crushed pecans for the casserole and counted minutes until I heard tires on the street. When Michael walked in, the room brightened, as if he carried good weather with him. He hugged me with one arm, careful not to wrinkle his sweater. The watch on his wrist flashed like a small sun. Behind him came Cassandra in a pale coat and tall boots that barely touched the floor as she crossed the rug. She kissed the air beside my cheek and said the house smelled wonderful. I thanked her and took their coats, noticing the weight of both and the faint drift of perfume. We ate as the afternoon softened. Michael spoke about new contracts and a coastal project that would bring clean power to small towns. Cassandra described a tasting menu she liked and a gallery opening she might attend. I listened, adding rolls to their plates, refilling glasses, laughing where it seemed right. Pride swelled like tidewater. My boy had built something solid out of his bright mind and stubborn heart. I let the sound of his voice carry me farther than the walls of my small house. After pie, Michael leaned back, easy as summer. He watched the light slide across the table and smiled like a man with a pleasant secret. I poured coffee and waited for more. "Mom," he said, "I have been meaning to ask, how are you enjoying the beach house I gave you 2 years ago?" The fork slipped from my hand and clattered against the plate. I blinked, sure I had misheard. "What house?" "Michael?" I asked, my voice thin as thread. Cassandra's smile froze, then cracked. She placed her napkin on the table and murmured, "Excuse me, I need to make a quick call," before rising too quickly. The chair legs screeched against the floor. She hurried into the kitchen, her heels clicking like tiny hammers on the tile. Michael frowned, leaning forward. "Mom, the beach house on Folly Beach. Remember, I had the deed transferred to your name. It was meant to be a surprise for your birthday, 2 years ago." My heart pounded so loudly, I thought the dishes might rattle. "Michael," I whispered, "I never received a house. I live here, in this tiny place, and nothing has changed." He blinked, confusion written across his features. That can't be. I had my assistant handle all the paperwork. There should be records, transfers, everything, and the monthly deposits. You have been getting them, right? "What deposits?" My stomach turned cold. $1,800. Every month. For 2 years. His tone was insistent now, tinged with disbelief. "That's nearly $43,000. You didn't get any of it?" The words hit me harder than winter air. 43,000. Enough to buy medicine without cutting pills in half. Enough to repair my old car. Enough to live with dignity. My knees trembled under the table. "Michael, I've been stretching peanut butter sandwiches and rationing my prescriptions. I swear, I haven't received a cent." Silence fell, heavy and unnatural. From the kitchen, I heard the low murmur of Cassandra's voice. hurried, and clipped. Though I couldn't make out the words, Michael pulled out his phone. His hands tight, jaw rigid. "Well, settle this right now." He scrolled quickly and dialed. Within seconds, his assistant's voice filled the room through speakerphone. "Yes, Mr. Pierce," the woman said. "I have the file." The deed to the Folly Beach property was transferred to Eleanor Pierce on November 14th, 2 years ago. All payments have been deposited to the account you provided. Routing number ending in 3,274. My mouth went dry. "That's not my account," I said hoarsely. "Mine ends in 9,012. The air seemed to crack open. Michael's eyes snapped up toward the kitchen. The sound of Cassandra's voice had stopped. The silence was worse than her words. "Who gave you those banking details?" Michael asked. His tone clipped. Dangerous. "Your wife." "Sir," the assistant replied without hesitation. Cassandra called. Said your mother had changed accounts. She also confirmed the mailing address for the deed, an apartment on King Street. I pressed a hand to my chest, the room tilting. I had never lived on King Street. Michael's expression hardened as if steel had replaced his face. From the kitchen doorway, Cassandra appeared, pale and tense, twisting her wedding ring. "Cassandra," he said slowly, his voice razor-sharp. "Explain this." Cassandra's lips parted, but no words came. She stood frozen in the doorway, eyes darting between me and Michael as though searching for a script she could no longer remember. Finally, she forced a trembling smile. There must be a mix-up. Maybe the bank made a mistake. Michael's hand slammed against the table. The cups rattled. A mistake that lasted 2 years? $43,000? Cassandra. A house deed sent to an address my mother never lived at. Don't you dare call this a mistake. I rose slowly, my chair scraping the floor, my body weak but fueled by a cold, clear anger. "Cassandra," I said, my voice low, steady in a way that startled even me. "Where is my beach house? Where is the money my son sent me?" She began to cry, the sound high and brittle. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. My parents were drowning in debt. My father's health bills." I cut her off. "So you stole from me? While I worked nights scrubbing motel bathrooms. While I skipped meals to buy my blood pressure pills. You sat in this very room, smiling at me, knowing I was starving?" Her face crumpled. "I only meant to borrow it, just until things improved. I thought I could fix it before anyone noticed." Michael's voice was ice. "Borrow? You forged my mother's signature. You opened accounts in her name. You rerouted thousands of dollars. That's not borrowing. Cassandra, that's theft." Her sobs grew louder, almost theatrical. I wanted to protect my family. My parents had nowhere else to go. The beach house was empty. It wasn't fair for it to sit unused while my parents... "Stop," I snapped, surprising even myself. My heart hammered in my chest, but I would not let her drown us in excuses. It was never yours to give, never yours to live in. You stole 2 years of my life, 2 years of safety and peace my son tried to give me. Michael pushed his chair back, his face pale with fury. "I trusted you. Cassandra, I let you handle things because I believed you cared about my mother as much as I do. And this is what you did?" The air grew thick, heavy with betrayal. Cassandra dropped to her knees beside the table, clutching Michael's hand, her mascara streaking down her cheeks. "Please, Michael, don't ruin us over this. We can fix it. I'll make it right." He yanked his hand back. "With what? You've never worked a day since we married." "Everything you own came from me, and from what you stole from her." I felt the room spin, but I stayed standing, my hands braced against the table. In that moment, a truth settled deep inside me. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a crime, carefully planned, carried out under my roof. And tonight, the lies had finally shattered. The next morning, the weight of betrayal still pressed heavy on my chest. I had not slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Cassandra's face first, the polished smile she wore so easily, then the cracks when her lies unraveled. Michael arrived just after sunrise, carrying 2 boxes filled with folders, receipts, and his laptop. He set them on my small kitchen table, the same table where Cassandra had begged for forgiveness only hours before. "We're going to trace every dollar," he said grimly. "No more secrets." Together, we opened the files. The first document was the deed to the Folly Beach house. My name was there, scrawled across the signature line. But when I looked closer, my stomach clenched. "That's not my handwriting," I whispered. "Look at the E. I always loop it. This is straight, stiff, mechanical." Michael held the paper next to a birthday card I had signed for him. Side by side, the differences screamed like sirens. "She forged your signature," he said flatly. His jaw tightened. We dug deeper. Bank statements showed $1, 800 deposits, all diverted into an account under the name Eleanor Pierce. But the bank logo wasn't from anywhere I'd ever used. Someone had opened a brand new account under my identity. "I need to see this with my own eyes," I said. By mid-morning, we were standing in the marble lobby of Palmetto First Bank. I clutched my worn driver's license, my hands trembling. A representative pulled up the records, her brows knitting. "Mrs. Previews is Mrs. Pierce. This account has been active for 2 years. Opened with your social security number, date of birth, and signed application." She slid the file toward me. I stared at the application. My name was there, but again, the signature wasn't mine. My breath caught. "That's a forgery." The representative nodded gravely. "This qualifies as identity theft. You'll need to file a police report immediately." Michael's face went pale. "How much has gone through this account?" She clicked her mouse, scanning the records. "Total deposits over 2 years equal $52,000, all withdrawn in cash or spent through linked debit transactions." 52,000. My head swam. That was more than it earned in 3 years of cleaning motels. As we left the bank, I looked at my son. His shoulders sagged under invisible weight. "Mom," he said quietly, "I thought you were safe. I thought I was helping you." I touched his arm gently. "You tried. Michael, you did everything right. But someone we trusted twisted it all." The betrayal was wider, deeper than either of us had guessed. And a sick certainty grew in me. This was only the beginning. That afternoon, Michael insisted we meet with his attorney, Mr. Donovan. The man had sharp eyes behind rimless glasses, and a desk stacked with orderly files. He welcomed us into his office with a gravity that made my pulse quicken. Michael slid the forged deed across the desk. "We need to know exactly how deep this goes." "Mr. Donovan examined the papers in silence, then pulled a thick folder from his cabinet. "I've already done a preliminary check. Mr. Pierce. What I found is troubling." He spread documents across the polished wood surface. My name was stamped again and again, on forms I had never seen, tax returns, credit card applications, even a small personal loan. My breath hitched as I traced the fake signature repeated on every page. "These were filed under your identity, Mrs. Pierce," he explained. "It's not just the house or the support payments. Your daughter-in-law has been running what amounts to a private fraud ring using your name." I gripped the arm of the chair to keep steady. "But I file my taxes every year. Honestly, how can this be possible?" Mr. 8? Donovan's tone softened, though his words struck hard. The IRS has notices on record for unreported income, specifically the funds your son transferred. They were mailed to an address on King Street, the same false residence linked to the forged deed. As far as the government is concerned, you have been underreporting income for 2 years. Cold dread ran through me. Are you saying they think I am guilty of tax evasion? He nodded. Technically, yes. But we can prove you're the victim. Still, it will take time and evidence to clear your name. Michael shot up from his chair, pacing the room, fists clenching. How much in total? Mr. Edo. Donovan slid over a summary sheet. Between the stolen support payments, fraudulent tax returns, credit cards, and the loan, the total theft is approximately $85,000. The number crushed the air from my lungs. 85,000. More than 4 years of my salary. Gone. Swallowed by deception. I stared at the papers, shame and fury tangling inside me. Cassandra hadn't just stolen money. She had stolen my dignity, my security, my very name. Michael's voice cracked. She destroyed my mother's life while living under my roof. I trusted her. God, I trusted her. Mr. Donovan leaned forward, his expression grim. This is no longer a private matter. It is criminal fraud, forgery, and identity theft. The authorities will need to be involved. My hands trembled as I gathered the scattered documents. The life I thought I knew had been shattered. And yet, somewhere deep inside, a new resolve was hardening. If Cassandra thought I would remain the quiet victim, she was about to learn otherwise. 2 days later, Michael drove me east toward Folly Beach. The sky stretched wide and gray, the kind of coastal light that made the ocean shimmer like steel. My stomach twisted with every mile. I had never seen the house my son intended for me, the house that carried my stolen name on its deed. When we turned down a quiet lane lined with palmettos, my breath caught. The beach house was stunning, white clapboard walls, wide porches, tall windows that reflected the rolling surf. It looked like the kind of place where life could finally exhale. A place I might have called home. But the driveway told another story. A silver SUV sat parked, and toys littered the lawn. Children's bikes leaned against the porch railing. Voices drifted through the open windows. Laughter mingled with the hiss of waves. Michael's jaw hardened. They're here. We walked up the steps, every board groaning under the weight of betrayal. When the door opened, Cassandra's father stood before us. His face fell, color draining from his cheeks. "Oh," he said quietly, his eyes darting behind him. "We've been expecting you." Cassandra appeared moments later. Gone were the polished coats and immaculate hair. She wore jeans and an oversized sweater, her face puffy from tears. She looked smaller, almost fragile, but I knew better now. "Margaret," she whispered, voice trembling. "I am so sorry." The words scraped against me like broken shells. "Are you?" I asked coldly. "Or are you just sorry you were caught?" She flinched, but I pressed on. For 2 years, I lived on crackers and tea. For 2 years, I worked nights until my hands cracked open. All while you and your parents watched the sun rise over an ocean that was meant for me. Her mother appeared then, her eyes wide with shock. "We didn't know," she insisted, wringing her hands. "Cassandra told us Michael wanted us here. That had given us this house out of kindness." Michael's voice sliced through her explanation. "This house belongs to my mother. She is the legal owner, and every payment you've enjoyed came from money stolen in her name." Cassandra's tears spilled faster. I only wanted to help my family. My father's health bills were crushing them. I thought I thought, if I borrowed it, no one would notice until I found a way to return it. I shook my head slowly, feeling a sharpness in my chest that was not pity but clarity. You didn't borrow, Cassandra. You stole. You forged. You lied to my face while I suffered. Behind us, Mr. Donovan stepped forward, a leather briefcase in hand. His voice was steady. Official. Mrs. Stevens, your family will need to vacate this property within 30 days. Documents have been filed. Law enforcement has been notified. Any further use of stolen funds will be added to the charges. The porch fell silent. Only the ocean spoke, its waves relentless and unyielding, as if echoing the truth none of us could escape. The courtroom in downtown Charleston smelled faintly of polished wood and old paper. I sat between Michael and Mr. Donovan, my palms damp, my heart steady only because I knew the truth was finally in plain sight. Cassandra entered in a plain gray suit, her once perfect hair pulled back in a severe knot. She looked nothing like the woman who used to glide into my kitchen wearing pearls and perfume. Now, she looked cornered. The judge read the charges: fraud, forgery, identity theft, and theft by deception. Each word rang out like a bell, tolling the end of something. Cassandra's voice shook as she whispered guilty to each count. Evidence filled the hours that followed. The forged deed. The bank account opened in my name. The tax returns with false addresses. Mr. Donovan laid it all out with a precision that left no space for denial. Michael's assistant testified, her voice firm but regretful, about the phone call where Cassandra had provided false account numbers. At one point, Cassandra turned in her seat to face me. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Her lips formed the words, "I am sorry," but no sound came. I did not nod. I did not smile. I simply looked at her, the way one looks at a storm that has already torn the roof away. The verdict was swift. The judge sentenced Cassandra to 20 months in state prison, followed by restitution. "Trust is sacred," he said. "When you betray it at this level, you not only destroy finances, you destroy families." Michael exhaled shakily beside me, as if a boulder had been lifted from his chest. But the weight in mine was not gone. Justice had been served, yet scars remained. The divorce was finalized shortly after. Cassandra signed everything without contest, perhaps too drained to fight, or perhaps aware she had already lost. All assets purchased with stolen funds were returned. The Folly Beach House was restored to my name, this time without forged loops or false addresses. News of the trial spread quickly through Charleston. At the grocery store, strangers whispered behind their carts. Some patted my shoulder, offering sympathy. Others looked at me as though I had secretly profited, as if being defrauded were some twisted blessing. Through it all, Michael stayed close. He called daily, stopped by with groceries, insisted on repairing the broken heater in my tiny home, even though he knew soon it'd be moving. For years, he had been too busy to linger. Now, he lingered often, his eyes softer, his voice carrying guilt he could not shake. One evening, he told me quietly, "She didn't just steal from you, Mom. She stole 2 years of us." And in that moment, I realized the money, the house, even the justice weren't the true heart of the wound. It was the time stolen, the moments between mother and son that we could never get back. The first night, I slept in the Folly Beach House. The ocean's hush drifted through the open windows. I lay in a bed that finally belonged to me, beneath a roof that had once been a monument to betrayal, but now felt like a second chance. The moonlight painted the walls silver, and for the first time in years, I did not fall asleep worrying about bills or broken heaters. At first, the rooms felt foreign. Cassandra's family had left their mark-faded curtains, scuff marks on the floors, even a half-finished puzzle on the coffee table. But slowly, piece by piece, I began to make the place my own. I painted the kitchen a pale yellow, planted roses along the porch, and filled the walls with photographs of my late husband and Michael as a child. Every change felt like reclaiming another part of myself that had been stolen. Michael visited every week. He no longer rushed through conversations or called only between meetings. Sometimes he brought fresh bread from the bakery. Sometimes just stories from his day. One evening he admitted softly, "Mom, I thought I was protecting you all that time. But I never even checked if you were truly safe." I placed my hand over his. "You tried, Michael, and now we both know better." The restitution came slowly, through frozen accounts and court orders. In the end, I received close to $100,000 more than I had ever imagined. Enough to retire from motel work. Enough to breathe without fear. Yet money was not the real gift. It was the freedom to sit on the porch with a cup of tea, to watch the gulls sweep low over the waves, to savor peace instead of rationing it. Cassandra's sentence began quietly. I heard she wrote letters from prison, though I never read them. Forgiveness, if it ever came, would not be in words, but in the choices she made after she left those walls. That was her journey, not mine. For me, the journey was learning to let go of bitterness. Yes, I had been robbed of security, dignity, even my name. But I had not been robbed of resilience. I had survived nights of hunger, days of endless scrubbing, years of loneliness. And here I stood, stronger than the storm that tried to break me. Now, as I sit on the screened porch, the ocean wind tugging gently at my hair, I think of the lesson carved into my heart. Betrayal often comes dressed in smiles, but truth always surfaces. Trust is precious, but it must be guarded. And when the worst happens, when deception strips you bare, you discover the one thing no thief can take: your strength to rise again. Looking back, I realized the greatest loss wasn't just the money or the house. It was the time I spent believing I wasn't worth more. I survived winters without heat and nights of hunger because someone I welcomed into my life chose greed over honesty. Yet through that darkness, I discovered something unexpected. I am stronger than betrayal. Justice doesn't erase pain, but it does return dignity. And dignity, once reclaimed, feels like freedom. The house by the water is beautiful, yes, but the true gift is knowing I can sit here today with peace in my heart and truth on my side. If you've ever felt deceived by those closest to you, remember this: trust may break, but you are not broken. You can rise, rebuild, and even thrive. Now, tell me, what lesson would you take from my story, and where in the world are you watching from?